Rachel drank magic mushroom tea at a retreat. Hours later, she was dead. It was prescribed by a spiritual healer she trusted. While Rachel's cause of death remains a mystery, her family wants to know if the tea is what killed her.
I would just like answers to what happened.
I'm Deanne Matthews, and I'm so glad that you're here.
Rachel said she didn't feel great, she felt terrible and had a bad experience.
I practice as a healer, a teacher and a mentor.
We've got a big, uncontrolled, unregulated industry and people are at risk.
Very loving and supportive, always there for me.
Matt Mountain and his mum Rachel Dixon shared an unbreakable bond.
I miss everything. Probably the little things that you don't, I guess, realise at the time, you probably take for granted.
The Melbourne myotherapist had a myriad of qualifications and was passionate about health, something the man she married more than 20 years ago, Richard Mountain, says led to her interest in natural remedies.
Rachel would never take a drug, even a Panadol for a headache.
I'm going to start a 12-week metabolic precision process.
After separating, Richard and Rachel reconnected about a year before she died on a retreat run by Deanne Matthews in Clunes, northwest of Melbourne.
I became aware of her subsequent to us being back together.
And what did you learn about her? What did Rachel tell you?
Just that she was running health retreats and giving Rachel, or supplying Rachel with psilocybin.
Psilocybin, or magic mushrooms, are naturally occurring hallucinogens.
For the ceremonies, I reckon she'd done 4 or 5, and I know she was microdosing in some mornings as well.
And what did your mum say she was going to be doing in Clunes?
I just said that they'd go up there, do the ceremony, and then have the tea containing psilocybin, I guess.
So what do you think's happened here?
I don't know, but I find it strange that she consumed this drink, shortly thereafter fall ill, collapse and die.
Do you know how soon after she ingested this she passed away?
I couldn't say exactly, but it was shortly after.
An autopsy couldn't determine Rachel's cause of death, mushrooms or otherwise, but Richard says 2 months prior she had a thorough health check, given the all clear.
Did Rachel ever tell you after having taken psilocybin previously that it had made her feel unwell?
Yes. She'd been on the previous trip she'd been on. Rachel said she didn't feel great, she felt terrible and had a bad experience.
Were you worried about that given her adverse reaction previously?
Yes, I just said be careful.
Richard, a retired policeman, was worried, but Rachel trusted Deanne and believed the mushroom drink was helping her relax.
Rachel was sold the belief that it was a natural sort of thing, and because it was a mushroom grown in nature, that it wasn't that harmful.
There's a sort of movement to go to the underground and use treaters, so-called treaters and shamans and healers who use psilocybin not legally and they're not regulated, and that's a real problem, I think.
Dr Nigel Strauss is one of about 15 psychiatrists in Australia authorised to prescribe psilocybin.
We know exactly what the dosage is, where it comes from, it's high quality. But if you're just giving people mushrooms, you're not sure what the mushroom is and you're not sure how much psilocybin, which is the active ingredient, is in the mushrooms.
It's a drug that is prescribed, being given by somebody who has no qualifications to prescribe it.
Is there anything you want to say to the victim's family? Do you regret supplying those drugs?
Police charged Deanne Matthews with trafficking a drug of dependence. The self-proclaimed healer, mentor and teacher, who charged each client $500 for the overnight retreat, was fined $3,000 without conviction. No other charges have been laid over Rachel's death, and a current affair does not suggest that they ought to be.
I think it's an insult. As far as I'm aware, she's still running the retreats. I've had nothing to do with her and she hasn't contacted me.
Just days ago, a current affair observed Deanne welcoming a woman into her Port Melbourne business. But when we knocked, no response.
Deanne? Thus far, that $3,000 fine has been the only real consequence for Rachel's death. And the shop here, where Deanne rented space for her retreat, is still open. There's a class going on in there right now. But there are a lot of lingering questions. Richard and Matt now hoping the coroner's investigation could get some answers around what happened here that night.
Michelle Mullins, who owns Soul Barn in Clunes, leased space to Deanne for the event. Shortly after Rachel's death in April last year, we tried to ask Michelle questions.
Can you tell us what happened at the retreat, Michelle?
Do you feel as though there's been any justice for your mum?
Broadly speaking, no.
How long did you live here with your mum?
20 years, yeah.
You were here 20 years?
Yeah, whole life.
I see that's her business sign.
Yep.
Did she also run her business?
Yeah, ran her business here, my therapy business. So she did obviously massage, PT.
One of the key areas to this transformation process is nutrition.
Matt and Richard have cleared out Rachel's home for a fresh start.
Redoing the decking, some of the decking, re-roofing, and doing a lot of painting. Rach had always spoken that, you know, if anything ever happened to her, she was very adamant that Matt keep the house.
But Richard says their project is on hold because of Rachel's superannuation with MLC.
The last thing you need when you're grieving is to be dragged through the mud.
MLC ultimately accepted Matt as Rachel's dependent, but almost 12 months on from her death, still no payout. A tedious predicament Matt never envisaged facing.
If you could say one last thing to your mum, what would it be?
Just be, I miss you.
Don't go on the retreat.
And MLC admitted as an industry it needs to do more for families and speed up the process, but mentioned nothing about Matt's claim.